everyone, I'm Lindsey McKinzie and I'm a technical agronomist from Southern Illinois, and today I want to touch on fungicide timing applications and what we should be looking for when we think about soybean and corn applications. So corn usually gets all the love first off, so we're going to just touch on soybeans really quick to start off. So when we think about soybean fungicide timing, there is a reproductive stage that we want to hit, and that would be the R3 stage. And how we define the R3 stage is if we find a pod in the top 4 nodes that is about 3 1/16 inch long. So if we find a pod that size in any of those top 4 nodes, that is telling us that we need to get out there and start spraying our fungicide. Now, I also want to mention that there has been Japanese beetle pressure out there in corn and soybeans from what I have seen. So if we want to throw an insecticide in that application, then we need to go out and make sure that we do see that the insect pressure that would indicate we need to add something to our application mix. The next thing I want to talk about, thinking about soybean fungicides, and this could also apply to corn, but we really need to go and scout our acres, and we need to look and see, do I have disease pressure, or do I have an insect pressure that would warrant an application? So in soybeans right now, our big focus is going to be around frog eye leaf spot, and there is a list of varieties that we have that are more susceptible to frog eye than others. And so when we're going out to scout, we want to look at those varieties as well as our bean on bean acres. That is typically, where we're going to see more of that pressure is on those same rotation acres. But when we think about frog eye leaf spot, it loves humidity and it loves moisture. So anything low lying like a creek bottom or a river bottom field, those are the areas we need to go look at, and then also take in consideration our soybean variety. So to recap again, what we're looking for in our R3 stage is a soybean pod that is about 3 1/16 inch long in any of those top 4 nodes. Once we hit that and we see disease pressure, and we're going to plan on making that fungicide application, then we can start pulling that trigger when we hit that right growth stage. So now to move on to growth staging corn, really our first initial timing, we want to target that VTR1, which is our initial tassel timing, and then R1 would be when those silks are starting to pop out. So getting out and looking to see, what growth stage is my field at, when do I want to spray my fungicide. Sometimes we can push that brown silk timing, which would be around that R2 stage. And so those silks will start to brown a little bit. And so that would be the later side of the first application that we could make. And then our second timing, or our second fungicide application, if needed, we would really want to target that R3 stage, which would be the milk stage. So if you were to break open an ear, you're going to get that milky type fluid coming out of your corn kernels. Now, the important thing to think about whenever we're scouting for disease and we're trying to figure out when our first application needs to be, we really want to protect everything from the ear leaf and above. So a lot of times, especially gray leaf and sometimes tar spot, those initial lesions or the symptomology will start in the lower canopy and continue to move upward. So once you see that you have it in the bottom canopy, that disease is present and it will continue to move as it can. And so making sure that we get to protect that ear leaf before that disease can move up any farther is going to be extremely important. So given the conditions similar to soybeans, we've had a lot of moisture, we've had high humidity, which is where disease is going to thrive. We want to get out, we want to scout our corn, again, make those best application decisions. We really want to focus on our corn on corn acres, especially if you know that, say last year you had a heavy tar spot pressure in that field, or high gray leaf spot, or northern corn, whatever it may be. We want to target those acres first, get a look at them, evaluate the situation, and then we want to continue to track, our susceptible hybrids. We all know those hybrids that maybe don't have the greatest genetic tolerance to tar spot, gray leaf. And so making sure we're keeping an eye on those hybrids. That way we can continue to plan throughout the season. And like I mentioned earlier, and I'll put the risk maps up here on the screen, but we are sitting at a, in some areas, moderate and high level of risk for different diseases. So we have gray leaf, tar spot, northern corn, leaf blight are really going to be our target ones. This year, southern rust so far has not reared its head in Illinois, but again, we have to kind of wait and see. Are we going to have a hurricane storm that blows up from the south? And that will be, you know, kind of our indicator that we need to be ready to see southern rust. So again, just to recap, for both corn and soybeans, in soybeans, we really want to target that R3 stage, so seeing those pods in the top 4 nodes of the plant. In corn, we want to, that initial timing, we want to target that VTR1. So as those tassels are shooting out, where the majority of the tassels have shot out, or where those silks are starting to come out. And then if we need to come back with a second application, really thinking around that R3 stage. And then another thing to think about whenever we're going to make these decisions is an insecticide. I have seen several Japanese beetles out and about the last few weeks. I've got reports that they are starting to clip some of the silks on some corn. So that would be another thing to look at whenever we're going out to scout our fields. Do we have insect pressure? And if we do, does it meet the threshold that we need that would warrant an insecticide thrown in with our fungicide application? So of course, if you have any questions or about agronomics of your hybrid, what should I spray, which should be my target to first spray, how to grow stage, or if you have any disease questions, always feel free to reach out to your local seed pro, your field sales rep, or your local channel technical agronomist.